Hello, welcome to my garden. We are out the front in my relatively new front yard veggie patch that I started in October, and it's starting to look pretty good now. And I thought we could have a chat about what I'm sowing right now in March, which is the very start of autumn for us here in Australia. And I am located in Perth, and that is a temperate climate. And I think for those of you in America, it is similar to an 11A, but I'm not entirely sure. So if you do know that, then definitely leave me a comment below. It is the first week of autumn here, and I have already been planting seeds randomly. If you've been watching my vlogs, then you'll know that I like to just plant seeds in the gaps sort of as I go. But today I wanted to share 10 edible plants that you can sow right now in March at the start of autumn. These 10 edible plants are sort of transitional plants that are really good to plant in between summer and winter. These are really good at bridging that gap between the hot months and the cold months. It has been really hot here in Perth, so we've had a really hot summer. I think it's one of the hottest summers we've had on record, and it has been a struggle to keep things alive. So I have definitely held off on planting things, but actually been raining today, so that is a really good sign for autumn that we are finally getting a bit of rain. Number one is radish, and I think radish is so underrated, but I must admit I never used to think too much about radish either, but since I've been growing radish and learning different ways to use radish in the kitchen, I am sold. I love it. There's so many amazing reasons why you should grow radish at home. So the radish are really quick growing plants from seed to table in just 4 weeks, or from 22-24 days you can start harvesting your radish. So that is really quick when it comes to growing things from seed. Most things that you grow from seed will take a lot longer than that. So that is one of the reasons I love growing radish, is that I can pop them in and I can have food ready as soon as I can. And so I continuously sort of plant radish seeds every few weeks so that I have succession planting and that I have a continuous supply of food available. And so the roots of the radish are obviously edible, and also so are the leaves. The leaves are something that is not eaten as often, but it is super versatile. I like to blitz them up and make a pesto with them, or also a chimichurri dressing to put onto my salads. And of course the radish are so delicious, crunchy and fresh in a salad, and they are also just as good roasted. So if you haven't tried roasted radish, you should definitely chuck them in next time you're doing some roast veggies. They are really sweet and delicious, and they take away a little bit of the pepperiness. There's a huge variety of things you can make with the radish. There are also heaps of different varieties of radish. So you get your normal little red ones, but there's also some amazing colours and flavours. So if you aren't so keen on the radish flavour and you don't like the pepperiness, then try some of the lighter coloured varieties like the white radishes or the golden one. They're a little bit more mild in flavour compared to the red ones. But you can also get the watermelon radish, which is really fun to grow. It does take a little bit longer to grow than the other radishes, and it does grow quite a lot bigger. It's white and sort of drab on the outside, and then the inside is amazing bright coloured pink. And when you slice it, and it has a little bit of green on it, it sort of looks like a watermelon rind with the watermelon centre. So that's a really fun one to chuck in salads and make and use as a garnish. It is definitely one of my favourite radishes. I've already planted heaps in my garden. I like to plant my radishes all in between different plants because they're so fast growing. They can be planted next to your other plants when you plant them, and they'll be ready to go and harvest before the other plants are too big and taking up all the space. So it's a really good way to utilize as much space as you can, because you're using that time when your other plants are still small and not going to be overshadowing the radish just yet. So I just pop my radish all in between my plants, and then it's sort of like a treasure hunt on going and finding which ones are ready. And you can do that by just brushing a little bit of soil off and finding the bulb, and if it is looking big enough, then you can harvest that. I feel like I could go on all day about the radish, but moving on, we've got number 2. So number 2 is rainbow chard. This is another one that I love. I'm a huge advocate for rainbow chard. It is one of my favourite leafy greens to grow. The reasons I love growing rainbow chard is that it is a super abundant, generous producing plant. So it is always providing a whole lot of food on a single plant, and you can harvest it as it grows. So you can just take 1 or 2 leaves off the outside and get a sort of continuous production going of rainbow chard. You can grow rainbow chard all year round in certain climates. I have been able to do that by just planting it in the shade over summer, and it seems to be okay. It obviously doesn't produce as much and as well because it is under a little bit of stress from that heat. It has such big leaves, so it loses moisture really fast. Autumn is a really, really good time to be planting out your rainbow chard or your Swiss chard or any sort of chard that you want to grow. I prefer the rainbow chard because it has such bright neon stems, and that really brightens up a winter garden. Winter gardens do tend to be a little bit on the green side, so having those bright, colourful stems really does make it a little bit more cheerful in the garden as well as in the kitchen and on the plate. I just use rainbow chard like I would spinach, chop it up, chuck it in stir fries and soups. The stems as well, you can pickle those. You can make kimchi. There's so many different things you can make with the rainbow chard. And fun fact, rainbow chard is actually from the beetroot family. So if you didn't know that the rainbow chard is from the beetroot family, then leave a comment below saying rainbow so that I know that you've learnt something new today. All right, so number 3 is lettuce. I sort of associate lettuce with summer, you know, fresh in salads and things like that, but lettuce isn't a big fan of summer here in Perth. It's way too hot. It's a little bit of a sensitive soul, so now in autumn it's a really, really good time to sow your lettuce seeds and start growing lettuce. If you are growing lettuce in the warmer months, you can just pop it in a shady spot and you'll have more luck with it growing there. It just tends to bolt really quickly if it does get too hot, and then it'll go to flower and seed, and once it does that, it's super bitter and not very enjoyable. So planting lettuce in a cooler spot or now in autumn is a really, really good time to plant lettuce. I have got a few on the go already, and they seem to be doing okay here in the shade with the amount of shade that I've got using these shade cloths out here. But yeah, I can start planting more of those. I do sow my lettuce seeds inside in trays first rather than direct sowing. I haven't had much luck with direct sowing lettuce seeds. Maybe they're just as sensitive as seeds as they are as plants, but oh, there's a bee. And again, I just plant my lettuce seeds all in between different plants, so that also reduces the risk of them getting eaten, because if the bugs find one lettuce, they're not going to just go from one to the next. They've got to go and search like a treasure hunt as well. And that is one of my techniques for doing natural pest management. I have an article on that, so I'll drop a link below. But if you do want me to do a video on that, definitely leave me a comment and I'll do that if you are interested. Number 4 is beetroot. I love growing beetroot. I think I just love it more and more each year, and I grow different varieties now. I grow so many different varieties of beetroot. I don't just grow the red ones, so that is really fun as well. Beetroot is a really, really good one to start planting now in autumn. One of the things I love the most about it is that you can eat the whole plant. So you've got the edible root obviously, and then you can also eat the leaves, and you can use those as you would spinach or chard chopped up in a stir fry in a soup, as well as you can blanch the leaves and use them as a wrap. So I've done that. I used them to make some beetroot leaf dolmades and stuffed them with all sorts of goodies, and they were so delicious. So they are really, really versatile, and you can just pick 1 or 2 leaves off each plant as it's growing so that it still has enough leaves to produce and grow, but you can sort of get a little bit of a continuous harvest of food throughout the growing season. And it provides a lot of food, so there's just as much food on the leaf as it is on the root, so it's a really, really good plant to grow at home to get a lot more food. And there's a whole lot of different varieties. I'm growing the white one, the golden one, and I think it's called the Chigoria. I don't really know how you say that, but it is like a candy cane stripe. It's really, really, really fun vegetable to grow, and it's really sweet, so it does have a candied like taste to it. And you can grate beetroot fresh in a salad, you can chuck it in a stir fry, you can roast it. Roasted beetroot is so delicious, as well as bottling it and canning it to preserve your harvest to use throughout the year. And I just love pulling root vegetables out. I don't know, it's just a fun thing to have something that looks like just leaves are growing above the surface, and then you pull it out and there's magic underneath that's been growing. So definitely beetroot fan. Alright, so number 5 is spinach. So another leafy green that you can grow in the garden that provides a whole lot of food. And there's different varieties as well, so there's a little bit more novelty ones like the Malabar spinach. I love growing that. It's a climbing spinach and it's a little bit more like a succulent, so it does really well here in our hot Perth climate, and you can use that to grow up and use up that vertical space, as well as you've got your lower lying ground cover spinaches. You've got your perpetual spinach, which is one that you can sort of grow all year round. And spinach is just a really good one to bulk up your meals, to add all that extra nutrition into your food and smoothies, all sorts of things. I think nearly all of these you can grow in pots and containers as well. So if you are limited on space, you can grow a whole lot of food like spinach or rainbow chard in a pot. So that's another reason that all of these are really, really good to start growing at home. Number 6 is onions. Onions are a really, really good one to grow because they are flavour enhancing. You can add them to all of your meals to add a boost of flavour. And the other great thing about growing onions is they naturally deter pests because of their strong scent. So I like to plant my onions all randomly in between other plants, and that helps deter some of those pests from getting to my plants, as well as if you do have any issues with bugs on your onions, then you're not going to lose the whole harvest because you've got them all spread out throughout the garden. So I do that with pretty much all of my food. I spread it all out to not put all my eggs in one basket and minimize the risk of losing an entire crop. So some of the onions I grow, I like to eat a lot of red onion, so I grow mostly red onion. I like the red bunching onion, which is similar to like a spring onion. I'm also going to try out some Egyptian walking onions, which are more of a perennial onion, and they not only grow a bulb on the bottom, but they also grow little mini bulbs on the top. And as those bulbs grow, the leaf or the stem gets too heavy and it falls over, and then those bulbs will start growing in the soil. So it moves about the garden like that, which I think is really fun and easy, and it just, you know, continues to renew itself without any effort on my behalf. So I'm all for that. I'm excited to try those out. Onions are a really, really good one to start planting out now in autumn. Number 7 is rocket, and I've got rocket planted in a few of these garden beds here, as you would have seen on my vlogs as well. And rocket is another one that's really, really quick growing, so I like to use that as a transitional crop. When I've got other things I'm starting to grow, I can chuck in rocket and I know that I'm going to get some food pretty quickly. And I like to chuck rocket on everything. I use it as sprinkles. I sprinkle baby rocket on top of my stir fries, on top of my salads, pizzas, literally everything. I just sprinkle baby rocket. It adds lots of flavour as well as adding extra nutrition. And then we have number 8, which is fennel. I love fennel. I sort of grow it all year round, but in the hotter months like summer, spring and summer, it doesn't tend to grow bulbs. It's more so just producing leaves and flowers, and the bees love the flowers. So you can eat the whole plant. You can eat the fennel fronds. They're really good as added flavour. They've got quite a licoricey taste, and you can pop those on top of a salad or use them in your pickling liquids to flavour any of your pickled vegetables. I also make a pesto out of my fennel fronds, so I've got a recipe for that and I'll leave that link below. As well as using the flowers, I use the flowers in all sorts of different recipes, whether they're sweet or savoury, the little bit of licorice flavour in those as well. And then you can also save the seeds and have your fennel seeds that are really good for using in cooking. They are really wild growing if you let the seeds go. So especially the green fennel, it does grow quite wild. So it can be a really good idea to harvest those seeds and not get so much of them going everywhere in the soil, because you'll actually just have fennel everywhere. But now is a good time to plant your fennel and get those seeds growing, because with these cooler months of autumn and winter, the fennel will actually produce really good bulbs, and those are delicious, fresh in a salad or roasted. Again, these are really, really yum roasted. And I've got the green one, and I've also got the bronze fennel as well, which doesn't grow as wild, so it's a little bit of added extra colour in the garden amongst all the green. Number 9 is Rosella. So that is a type of hibiscus, and it has edible leaves and edible buds. So you can use the leaves as you would spinach, and then when the buds form, you can use those and dry them to use in teas, make syrups and jams. So that's another really interesting one to grow, and now is a really good time to pop those seeds in and get those growing. So let me know if you want to try growing Rosella. It is going to be my first season growing it, and I'm really excited about it. All right, lucky last, number 10, we have chives. So chives are really good to plant now in autumn, and those are again a really good one to add flavour to boost all of your meals. And they have edible flowers. I love the chive flowers. They've got a really subtle flavour. They've got beautiful purple colour, and that adds a little bit of colour to the garden. And you can pop those into a vinegar and make a chive blossom vinaigrette, so you can add that to your dressings, and that's a really fun one to do as well. You can dry the flowers and use them throughout the year. And chives can also deter pests, so you can pop those in between your plants and hopefully ward off a few more of your pests. Autumn is also a really good time to start pulling out any of the annuals from summer that are looking a bit old or just taking up space but not really producing, chucking those in the compost, starting to put fresh compost into your beds and getting prepared for your winter veggies. Again, getting some fresh mulch on there as well, and just tidying up your gardens a little bit from summer, getting prepared for a new season of new vegetables. So it is quite a busy time in the garden for us in autumn. It is luckily a little bit cooler, so we can get outside more and get some of those jobs done. It's just a really good time to refresh the garden, feed the garden, and get some seeds in the ground, get some seeds in seed trays, and make sure that we have a really good transition from summer to winter, and we have food throughout that whole time, so we don't just have a start-stop sort of growing season. We can continuously have things planted, and that's where those really quick growing crops come in really handy, such as the rocket and the radish, because those are going to be up and ready to eat while you're still getting everything else sorted. So if you did like this video, definitely hit like, because it really does help me reach more people so we can inspire lots more people to grow their own food at home. And I will see you back next week for another video.